The Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide has handed down a shocking report. It describes the despair of our servicemen and women as a national tragedy. It shows Australia can be too slow to mend the hidden wounds that too often lead to veteran suicide. The report also points to failures by governments and makes urgent calls for action. Joining me live is the Commissioner into Defence and Veteran Suicide, Nick Kaldas. Nick Kaldas, thank you for your time. There are multiple failures when you read this report on so many levels. In a nutshell, can you explain to us why?
Thanks, Laura. Clearly, there have been problems that have been raised probably over a couple of decades. We think there's more than 50 inquiries that preceded us that looked at some of these aspects, made numerous recommendations, most of which were simply not implemented. But this report, it's only an interim report, I have to say, so there are still many issues to be dealt with, but it is clear to us that the complexity and slowness of Department of Veteran Affairs' ability to process claims has in fact led to suicidality, and they have something like 40,000 plus claims that are outstanding at the moment waiting to be assessed. All of that has an impact on people waiting to have their problems dealt with. So we've recommended many things in this interim report, focused primarily on the Department of Veteran Affairs and the issues that are there.
Okay, compensation claims is obviously a big part of this. Why is there such a backlog, and how does that feed into suicide? Do these men and women feel like they're not being believed? They feel like they're trapped in the system? Is it both of those things?
It is, but I just need to clarify, Laura, it's not just claims for compensation. A lot of it is to seek bills to be paid for medical support, psychological support. It's not about money, it's more about people seeking treatment for whatever injuries they've got, whether they're physical or mental health issues. There has been an increase, definitely a marked increase in demand, and we had two conflict zones running for over a decade. You would expect some problems to arise out of that. That wasn't predicted, and in fact the staffing has been capped for some years in the Department of Veteran Affairs while the demand was going up, leading to this backlog. Sorry, there's one other thing I need to mention, and that is that it's pretty clear to us that these issues in the Department of Veteran Affairs are definitely leading to suicidal ideation and suicidality. And that's been agreed actually by previous ministers as well as the Secretary of the Department herself.
You refer to the Afghan war, the length of time, but also the mission creep of that. How much did that play into what we're still seeing today? But also, it seems from this interim report, there are fundamental cultural problems, Nick Kaldas. Many suicides occurred here at home and not necessarily from soldiers that have done a tour of duty overseas.
Yes, that's exactly right. So there is a portion of people who have not deployed to a war zone who have in fact suicided, very sadly. That tells us, as you've said, that there are cultural issues, and we're delving into those now. And if I could take the opportunity to encourage anyone who has had an experience, particularly a lived experience, serving or former members, we need to hear from them. We have had nearly 2,000 submissions. We're very keen to hear from more people. The only way we'll put this jigsaw puzzle together and come out with a true picture is to hear from people who have lived experience.
There are 50 previous inquiries, Nick Kaldas, as you mentioned at the start of this interview. There are ADF members watching this program today. What do you say to them? Will this report be any different than the others?
I would say this nation owes you a debt of gratitude. We're going to do our best to fix the problems, but we need to hear from you. And the Chief of Defence Force, no less, has come out very strongly when he gave evidence in Townsville at our hearing to assure people, serving members who come forward, that they will be protected and looked after. Nobody's going to get in trouble for talking to us. We want to hear from you.
Mr. Kaldas, you've done some pretty tough jobs in your time. How tough was this one?
It's right up there, Laura. You would have to have a heart of stone not to feel incredible empathy for some of the stories we're hearing and some of the things that people have had to put up with.
Nick Kaldas, really appreciate your time this morning. This is just an interim report as well. We'll speak to you again.
Thanks very much for having me, Laura.